some of our viewers may remember that my mother,
MuMu,
would come to the show, and we're not talking that long ago. It was really, we were kind of trying to figure out when was the last time she was here, and it was the first time Sydney Barnes came on, so it was in the summer.
Oh, September 4th.
September 4th, okay,
because
late
Mark had
summer.
asked when that
Okay.
he was on. It was September 4th.
So that was the last time that she was able to come. And she would sit in one of these chairs right over to the side and smile at us and listen. And on occasion, she would comment. We would, zoom in on her. So, the thing
So
about...
it's been 6 months.
It's been 6 months.
So, I mean, they were again with the weather, but even so with the weather, that still wasn't the reason that she didn't come.
No, never was the weather. That was her last show. During that show, out of the corner of my eye, I could see her moving around in the chair a lot. She could not get comfortable. She was in a lot of pain. And so I even got up, if you remember, during the show and went over there, and she said her back was hurting her really bad. Well, she's very arthritic, but the catalyst at that point was that her back hurt so bad. But what I realized is that I think that I was in denial. I knew that there were changes going on, but she's also just turned 85, so it's hard to know the difference between, is this just a natural thing that happens, as we age, or is there dementia and or Alzheimer's coming into the scene? Now, 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, my brother was telling me he was driving her from Asheville to Florida. And everything was going fine. They were just riding in the car, and all of a sudden she looked at him and said, "Who are you?" And you have to understand too that there of us are 3 siblings. We are extremely close to my mother.
Right.
And it was just overwhelming for him that she really did not know who he was. And he said, at first he thought she was kidding, and then he said, "Well, I'm your son." And I'm not sure if she said, "I don't know you," or what, but there was silence, and then he started talking about things, and then she went back into the moment and she knew who he was, and of course he never brought it up that it had happened.
Oh, he didn't tell you about it?
He didn't tell her. He didn't bring it up to her.
Okay.
Yeah, he told me about it, and he told my sister about it. But then there were no other incidents.
Right.
And we were watching close, and watching. I mean, there was the normal forgetfulness that I have, that you have, that, but there wasn't any indicator out there, an obvious indicator.
Right.
So the disease can come in many forms, and it can come in dementia, and it can come slowly or it can come quickly. Truly, for my mom, I think it came very quick.
Right.
From that point, that is my kind of point of where things started to go in a different direction. My mother has always been very, very outgoing. She got more introverted, more like to herself, quiet. And there was a look, and it's kind of hard to describe unless you're looking at the person, but there was this blankness that comes, and it's very, I could only describe it as extremely sad when you see it, because they're looking at you and there is no emotion. It's like at that moment they probably aren't recognizing you, even if they're not saying that. And there's also, it's a combination of that look of non-recognition and fear.
Right.
And it's the fear that's so overwhelming.
For you?
For me. And for the loved ones. And I'm hoping I can get through this without breaking down. But
it's like as if I've never cried. It's about time. Yes. Come on, Shannon. Hang in there, girl. And if you shed a tear, we all understand, because I'm sure that you're not the only one who's shedding a tear.
I'm sure there are lots of folks out there.
Yeah.
And, again, with me looking at that glass half empty, or half empty or half full, I'm still, even through this, going half full, because when I get really upset, I tell myself I've had another day with her. I get another hour with her. I'm real fortunate because I'm in the position in my lifetime now that I'm retired. So I don't have to worry about who's going to take care of my mom when I'm at work.
Then like a lot of other people
are, and they don't have any choice but to get outside care for their parent. And not that that isn't good care, but it's probably the same for the patient because they start to forget about who's taking care of them.
Right.
But it's much harder on the family because you're
At that point.
Yeah, because you get this guilt feeling. I get this guilt feeling even though I'm with her all the time because I get this guilt feeling because I can't fix it for her.
Right.
So,
But why would you get guilt when you can't?
I don't know. It just,
I mean,
you just
guilt
feel like
shouldn't
I'm not
be
doing something. It's hard to explain because it's just
Right.
you're so emotional during that
Right.
time.
Right.
I'll give you
But don't feel guilty because you're doing way more.
I do
I mean,
recognize that and realize it.
Yeah.
But you still, maybe guilt isn't the right word.
Right.
Maybe it's just
I don't,
such a
I don't
sadness.
think that yeah.
It's such a deep sadness, and it's hard to evaluate what you're feeling at the time. But I'll give you an example, and I know every situation with Alzheimer patients is different depending on the person and how they're reacting. But on a typical morning for me, I only live 2 blocks from my mother. And then, as you know, our oldest son, Spark, stays at the house with her, so she's never alone at night. So after she goes to bed and I know she's calm and she's asleep, then I go home and sleep for a few hours, unless we're having a particularly bad night, and then I just stay there. And, you know, there's another big blessing. I mean, my family's completely supportive. Mark is completely supportive, never complains, never says, why can't you be here more? Why can't you?
Right.
He's totally understanding to it, and the kids are very sympathetic, you know, to it also. So all that is extremely, extremely helpful. I have a lot.
You have a big support group.
I have a big support group, and so I can only imagine what it is like for people that don't have that support group,
Right.
or can't leave their job to take care of their parent, or their aunt or uncle or grandparent or whoever
Right.
might be going through
Right.
it. But I'm usually back at her house between 6:30 and 7 in the morning. Now, if it's a morning where she is not awake, I'll go into the living room. I'll check on her first, and then I'll go into the living room and I'll sit and have coffee. It seems to be a different, if she wakes up and comes to me, and she comes out of the room and she looks at me, I think there's a recognition. If I go in, if she's slept a little bit too long and I'm concerned and worried, and I
Right.
go in there and she opens her eyes and sees me,
Right.
there is absolutely no recognition. She doesn't know who I
Really?
am. She has no idea, and she'll say to me, who are you?
Right.
And
And
see,
that's what tears.
oh, that just tears you up, because not so much that they're thinking that, but the fact that when you tell them who you are, it's probably going to upset them because they can't remember you. So then,
so that's a big part of it too.
That's a big part of it. So
because then they get upset because of they don't remember, and
yeah, and then she'll cry.
Right.
You know. So I was saying, well, you know, real positive. Oh, you know me, I'm your daughter, Connie, and you know, and I'll go into whatever. And then she'll look at me and she'll tear up and she'll start crying and she'll say, I don't remember you, and I don't know who I am. And that's the real, when she says she doesn't know who she is.
right.
Then along with that sometimes comes, this is the hardest one, is she'll say, please quit taking care of me and let me die.
Oh.
Now, I know she doesn't mean that, that
Right.
is just a frustration that is coming out.
Right.
But it absolutely just kills
Breaks
you
your
to
heart.
hear somebody say that. What has really helped me a lot is my brother gave me a book, and it's called 36 Hours in a Day, dealing with Alzheimer patients. And that is about what it takes, because everybody has to be on board, and you have to, in that sense, doesn't mean that you're staring at them the whole time, but somebody has to be in there around them, for more than 24 hours. It seems like more than 24 hours a day, because it's so involved.